The town of Blackridge had been drenched in shadows for decades. Every alley whispered secrets, every street corner seemed alive with unseen eyes, and the unknown slayer had haunted the town for generations. He didn't just kill, he fed on fear, on screams, on the sight of blood pooling from trembling bodies. Emily, a young journalist craving a story, arrived during a storm that seemed almost alive. Rain battered the streets, fog curled around the broken lampposts, and every step she took felt like a warning. She moved into an old apartment once belonging to a victim of the slayer. The door groaned as she entered, sending chills through her spine. That first night, the apartment tested her senses. Scratches appeared along the doorframe, deep, wet, clawed. A whisper hissed, "You're next." Emily froze. Shadows stretched across the walls like black fingers. She could hear faint footsteps pacing just beyond her vision. Her heartbeat thundered. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the oppressive darkness. Mirrors reflected shapes that weren't hers, tall faceless figures lurking behind her, vanishing whenever she turned. The next day, Emily discovered a hidden floorboard under the rug. Beneath it lay a dusty journal, pages soaked with dark stains. Its entries spoke of horrors beyond comprehension, shadows crawling across walls, icy hands brushing necks, blood dripping from walls and floors in grotesque patterns, faces screaming silently, and a faceless figure stalking victims. One line made her blood run cold: "Fear feeds him. Show no fear, and you may survive." That night, the apartment seemed alive. Whispers slithered from the walls. Footsteps echoed. Mirrors reflected the tall faceless shadow always behind her. She felt claws scraping along the floor, icy breath brushing her neck, and smelled iron and decay. She screamed, a sharp, desperate sound, but the darkness swallowed it. On the third night, Emily followed a trail of sticky, dark blood leading to the basement. Shadows writhed like living snakes. The walls oozed gore. A faceless figure emerged at the bottom of the stairs, taller than any human, impossibly fast. She ran. Floors slick with blood made her slip, limbs scrabbling for purchase. Around every corner, she saw mutilated reflections of herself screaming, shadows forming clawed hands reaching for her. The echoes of cracking bones and tearing flesh filled her ears. Every heartbeat, every scream made him stronger. She fled into the streets. Rain soaked her hair and clothes, but not the blood already covering her. Alleys twisted impossibly, streetlights flickered, revealing shadows that moved on their own. The slayer appeared at every turn, faceless, relentless. She could hear her own terrified breaths, screams swallowed by the darkness, the smell of iron thick in the air. Blood seemed alive, seeping from cracks and puddles, forming the faces of the dead, mouths open in silent shrieks. Desperate, Emily reached an abandoned warehouse. She barricaded the doors with splintered wood, but the slayer was already inside. The walls bled, forming grotesque symbols and screaming faces. Mirrors reflected endless twisted images of the dead. The faceless figure stalked silently, dragging shadows behind him. Emily felt invisible hands brush her arms, icy and wet. She could hear the slayer whispering her name, calling her closer to the darkness. Remembering the journal's warning, Emily faced him. She stepped into the largest hall, lined with broken mirrors and walls smeared with blood. The slayer loomed, faceless, towering, suffocating the space with his presence. The warehouse shifted, walls twisted, shadows moved like serpents, blood seeped from cracks, forming screaming faces of the victims. Emily raised a shard of broken mirror, its edges sharp and gleaming. The slayer recoiled as his reflection appeared, rotten, twisted, screaming silently. The echoes of the tortured rose, filling the warehouse with wails of agony. Blood dripped onto Emily's arms and legs as she stood firm, refusing to look away. Every step she took through the blood puddles echoed like a drumbeat of terror. The final chase erupted. She ran through hallways soaked with gore, walls pulsating with the faces of screaming corpses. The slayer lunged, claws slicing through the air. She slipped in blood, screamed, stumbled, but pressed forward. Finally, she struck the mirror shard, shattering it. Glass and blood flew across the floor. The slayer let out a silent, inhuman scream. As dawn broke, Emily crawled out into the streets. Her clothes were drenched in rain and blood, her body shaking, mind frayed, but she had survived. The warehouse doorframe bore a fresh, wet scratch. The faceless slayer waited. Patient, eternal. The blood never lies. Blackridge would never be safe. The terror would continue. Every alley, every shadow, every scream belonged to him.